The October 8th meeting of the Sherwood Planning Commission will please come to order. Please call the roll.
Bruto. Here. Gillum. Here. Knight. Here. Martin.
Here.
Middleton.
Here. You've received a copy of the minutes of the September meeting. Do you have any comments or corrections?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Bruno. Aye. Gillum.
Aye.
Knight.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. The agenda, are there any adjustments or additions that you all might wish to make? There was some new items added onto it quite recently.
There is one item under number 12, new business. And this is what we previously discussed, is bringing the final plats back to you as new business as soon as they come up, because everything about that preliminary plat and construction and all has already been approved.
Which final plat?
On Creekside Phase 8. So our routine is to have the preliminary plat with you and then construction and approvals and checks. We've got everything done. This is simply a report to you that Creekside 8 is ready for final plat. So I'd like to add that under new business.
Anything else?
We have under the old business, we had the one, we put that on here, didn't you? That was the tabled previously, and that's number 7. That's what was changed today to add that back to this agenda because it was previously tabled. We wanted to be sure it was reflected here.
So in effect, it's old business.
It is old business, yes.
And we'll move that to old business then.
Mm-hmm.
So moving that to old business, take a vote on that, please.
Bruno. Aye. Gillum. Aye. Knight.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Number 5.
Site plan for Lot 1R Green Development, Half Plus Marler Agent.
Kevin?
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is your staff report. You all have a copy of this. Essentially, the applicant is looking to construct a new 8,000 office building. The new building will be located to the rear of an existing office building site that you can see on your graphic. 275 West Avenue is a split zone parcel. Western portion of that parcel and the eastern portion of that parcel. See one on the west or West Keel Avenue, I believe. Again, you can see the site graphic does not have the zoning color for what shows here. This property is West Keel Avenue. Those improvements that are graphically shown actually superimpose the parking lot to the north, as well as the proposed office, and between that western property line, existing northern office building on the O2 portion of the site. There were a number of outstanding items that were left over originally. Latest plans to staff have addressed all the in fact, this morning during our planning meeting, 2 items that I have read that are technically outstanding, but that is something we're want to make shoot point. But screening detail that I have here is essentially comes up discussion like the dumpster. Right now, the residential zone offers the best position up there. I'm not sure. Out of it, as well as lighting details, and have 5 lighting standards on the revised plat. New lighting will be full cutoff, not percent. That is the revised light. This is the plan that was submitted initially, staff, and then we have the superimposed polygons here, yellow showing the parking, red showing the proposed 8,000 pumps. And these were plans that we received recently that address the outstanding items, again, showing that proposed office parking on the north side of the office. On the left side of the graphic, that would be that left on the edge. There's a zone marking shown on the actual submitted that was not on the. That is it from staff, Mr. President.
And I have a comment.
Okay.
On this site, I've met with neighbors. I've also met with the engineer and discussed the design of this proposed 24-inch drainage pipe. And the confirmation that I have from them verbally is that the 24-inch drainage pipe is in addition to the currently existing natural drainage, which is a rather well-defined swale. There's a concern on the neighbor's part that this 24-inch pipe would have caused a problem, but after discussing it, we've agreed that the 24-inch is in addition to the existing drainage. However, after talking with the engineer, I have asked them that if you choose to approve this site plan, that you approve it with a contingency that I receive a new stormwater plan with calculations and that I sign off on those prior to them beginning any construction. Now, another note that I have is on the 10-foot fence in the back. I think we talked today about the 8-foot being a maximum height, and they show a 10-foot. The 10-foot would actually be advantageous because of the terrain. The people to the west are further uphill. So an 8-foot fence is likely to hardly be noticed. A 10-foot would actually help to provide some barrier, visual barrier.
This calls for a public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak to this? Yes, sir. If you would come up there and sign in, please. And if you would, give us your name and address.
My name is Bob Maiden, and I live at 108 Tiffany Circle. I am the neighbor that Mr. Penn is talking about there. The main thing, everything he said there, I've agreed with, the 24-inch drainage pipe. But a lot of the water that comes down from the very top of that hill on Keel runs through my backyard. It's the low point and has to continue on through the Greens property out behind the neighborhood market. I don't know that it shows it that well on that plan there. I also agree with the 10-foot fence. It would be better than an 8-foot because the way the land is, their building is up kind of on a hill. My house is way up on a hill. So the 10-foot fence would be a whole lot better than an 8. That's about it. As long as they clean that drainage area out to keep the water going down. Right now it's all grown up in hedge and vines and trees. It's just got to keep going downhill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make a statement?
I've got a question. The full cutoff lighting.
First, Lucian, there's no other comments. I'll call the public hearing closed.
Yeah, the full cutoff lighting. That's great. We need that. It ought to have it. But I've had some experience with this. And in chapter 14, first paragraph of the Sherwood big book, it says lighting from a commercial area shall not reflect on adjacent housing. which I think is very weakly worded, but that's what it says. And is the full cutoff fixtures, is that written anywhere?
I did not lift that language from regulation. That's language freestanding. Speaking lighting plan. The full cutoff means that getting it to 90 degrees, but straight down on the pole is
Okay,
zero cutoff would allow 100. The full is exactly right.
that's good. No,
So what is your pleasure?
Let's make a motion to approve the Richard's contingencies for the drainage.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Bruno,
Aye.
Gillum,
aye,
Knight,
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Item number 6.
Site plan for 220 Jan Drive, Thomas Engineering Agent.
Subject property is shown on your site graphic on the south side of East Keel Avenue. Technically, the address is for 220 Jan Drive. It's an existing Sherwood storage facility. You can see that location on your graphic now. Land use right now, it's a strip development and commercial corridor. The request is essentially a revision to the previously site plan office building. That's what they want to add. We'd like to go ahead and do some improvements along the property's frontage. Won't read directly from the report. Essentially see the additions here now. Part of the graphic is actually tilted. North would be on the left side of the screen. See how the fence kind of comes in like this. Whereas what they're proposing, an office building that would be using existing building footprint, seeing crosshatch graphic with wrought iron fencing, form barrier perimeter. It's far more decorative, lot better aesthetically, obviously, serve the business owners' functions in their office space. There were 2 outstanding items from the Plan Review Committee. Right now, they do not have a formalized lighting plan. I put my standard zero cutoff note. We do not have a formalized lighting plan at this time. We do have some pictures in here from the applicant with respect to that wrought iron look metal fence 14F2. Before I get there, I just plan as submitted. Cover letter from the applicant. These were presented to staff. Take the liberty of placing them in here. This is essentially what that front wrought iron look will be. This is black barbed wire that will rest the perimeter. Notes from the applicant. Take a look at this photo here. This is along Brookswood, and shown below will be replaced with the wrought iron pipe. Wrought iron pipe. And this is all information from the applicant on Manson Road. Dan, drive through the gate. The fence below will be placed black coated link, as shown. Doing some upgrading. That is it for formalized staff report.
Are there any comments from the city engineer? Okay, this calls for a public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak to this request? Hearing none, I'll call the public hearing closed. Gentlemen?
Chairman, I move that acceptance of the exclusion be added.
Pardon?
I move that we accept the recommendation with the outstanding items that would be addressed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those items being in the staff report.
Yes, staff report, yes.
Call the roll.
Bruno,
Aye.
Gillum,
Aye.
Knight,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Current item number 8.
Preliminary plat for Lot 1, Briggs Addition, Butler Surveying Agent.
The new item number 7, I believe, was added for St. Vincent, so do I have an old version of the agenda?
That's the name.
No, it,
Gotcha. Thank you. I have it placed. Report. Apologies. This is a preliminary plat and final plat submission submitted to the current Payne property. This is at the 5800 block of Highway 107 at the northwest corner with Park Cove. Park Cove is private. Property owner Tracy Briggs. There are 2 parcel IDs that are subject to the preliminary plat and the final plat. There's a 1.52 acre parcel and there's a 25 quarter acre larger piece to the south. They essentially want to put a new residence on this small northern portion on the north side of the private drive. Proposed Lot 1 is currently part of 2 separate parcels of record. Both parcels are common ownership, having parcel IDs. The site is not served by public water or sewage. The underlying are 1. This is simply a graphic of the plat as submitted, showing aerial topography of Highway 107. There are no outstanding items. Essentially, at this point, there was a note in the staff report regarding right-of-way. However, Arkansas Department of Transportation not having utilized widening, although there was some discussion. The county is perhaps as high on their radar for projects, but at this time, not know exactly how much require at this stage to try to get back. So, at this stage, for platting purposes, there are new plats.
Can you show that zoning slide again? One.
There's 2 lots here. They basically want to create proposed lot 1, 4.59 acres. This is all one lot. The lot, the parcel ID actually goes continued. Basically, platting it so they can do parcel.
I just want to confirm that it's all zoned R1.
It is all zoned R1, even though the land use plan has it as commercial. The blue line here, that's the label, are your zoning classification. Jason Jacksonville off right, that is not zoned as us. All you have is R1, but all on this side. The land use plan calls it out as general commercial. So the land use would be technically improvement for platting.
Well, first we'll call, because this doesn't require public hearing. My concern at this point is that if it's replatted, that almost automatically tells the property owner, go ahead and build this house, which is, well, the zoning's consistent, so it's okay. And even though the plan says it ought to be something else, you go by what the current zoning is. You would only get concerned if they were coming in for a rezone, then you'd have an issue.
They're not rezoning.
There's somebody after verify what are. I actually not recall seeing a cover letter that describes that one of the residents. I heard that, but I don't. I can actually confirm based on the size of it, the fact that it's quite small, and the fact that there isn't water or septic, and causing for residents.
But at this point, we simply don't know.
I don't have any active. I was established as active for this.
They have some skin there. I have cleared, whole, whatever the certain, places. I'll just put it, that word a little arrow.
Well, for our purposes here, that's really moot. If they came in for a building permit, that's when it would be checked to be consistent with the zoning. So the question before us is to whether we can approve the preliminary plat, and are there any other issues outstanding with engineering? Okay. So the question before us is approval of the preliminary plat.
A motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Bruno,
Aye.
Gillum,
Aye.
Knight,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Item number 9.
Final plat for Lot 1, Griggs Edition, Butler Surveying Agent.
Exact same report, exact same property, current filing, final plat. Outstanding items again are identical. One thing I will bring up that I failed to bring up during the preliminary plat is that they have addressed the scaling. They have adjusted the scale so that it is no larger than 150. They did correct the bullet point for the setbacks. They weren't able to provide, in fact, I guess I'm just making sure. Their comment regarding instrument number does not show book or page on this. So I was simply looking for something on the plat that actually documents the course court title. But that's something asked for not. That's something I had asked for. The instrument number does not show book or page. That's it as currently outside.
You heard the report? Any questions?
Motion to approve final plat.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Bruno,
Aye.
Gillum,
Aye.
Knight, Martin,
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Current number 10.
Zoning amendment at 9121 Jacksonville Cato from R1 to R1 conditional. City of Sherwood owner.
Kevin?
Yes, sir. As we all recall, this has been before the Planning Commission several times. Initially, because there was concerns about the land use and the zoning, and the council went ahead and asked by resolution that the Planning Commission evaluate this, form some language it adopted to the regulation regarding conditional uses for municipally owned public works facilities. Those regulations have been adopted by the city. They are now incorporated in the official version of the city zoning ordinance. The last time this was before the Planning Commission, the city simply wanted to make sure that proper notice was served at that time, and the not served accurate timing now has. So, have official notice, have the regulations in place for the Planning Commission to consider a additional use R1 zone for a municipally owned public works facility. That is the crux for you this evening. This planning report that was provided essentially the same as the previous reports. I won't read directly from it. I will provide you with a little bit of commentary about the staff recommendation for approval. This is on lengthy discussion with the planning committee, particularly the one that occurred on August 27th this year. So there are 3 items here. The third item I will paraphrase or succinct. But presently the site is comprised of 2 recorded parcels. The site should be replatted into a single parcel and recorded before continuing forward with development review. Second item, at the time of site plan submission for the municipally owned public works facility, building to property line setbacks shall be established as follows. The front would be 70. That would be the front, if you're looking from Jacksonville Cato Road to the west. The building to property line setback would be 70. The right side, or north facing, would be 30. The left side, south facing, would also be 30. Rear would be 40. So those are your building property line setbacks. I would refrain from reading all the language today, but essentially this was regarding the 50-foot buffer on the south side of the property. And so the entire length of this property, the property under consideration, has two different depths that are described here. Go in 950 from this right here, that south corner. Go in 950. That is essentially the neighboring parcel ID. That is the brown property. And there's discussion about a 50-foot buffer being established. Vegetative buffer that is maintained, undisturbed. But then at that point, once the brown property ceases to face this property, then continue that buffer only to a depth of 30 feet. Essentially, you have 30 feet through the entire depth, except for an additional 20 or 50 feet in depth for the brown property. That's essentially what that paragraph is trying to do. We can word it differently, but there's this language in the engineer to help me. But it's essentially forming a radius where you get to the brown property and take that and go around. It actually becomes a radius. So it provides that additional level of buffering, not just a straight line, but around, right that point. Their property, basically, this property. So that was a lot. We can pull up maps, graphics, have a discussion on this. These are essentially 3 items that staff has placed into the staff report, part of hospital.
Okay, you've heard the staff report. This does require a public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak? If you will sign in, please.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Brown, 9105 Jacksonville Cato Road. You all know what I'm here to say. Just going to reiterate shortly and not get too in detail because I know you're going to approve this anyway. That's what you do. 8 months ago, I told you it didn't make sense to rezone this property industrial. Only one of you agreed with that. But the city council did and sent it back to you for changes. You made changes to the zoning code to rezone this, and now you're here to talk about rezoning this to R1 conditional. And again, I'm asking you to look at this and see that this does not make planning sense to put this property here still, and to just go ahead and again consider not doing this and looking at it again. I know that you're considering changes and because the city council has said we are going to give us this buffer, but I'm asking you to again look at the impact this is going to have on my family and the city. People in the city have agreed with our family and said this doesn't make planning sense to put a public building into a residential area. I get that you've redone the entire zoning code in order to do this for the city's purposes, but the public, the city is supposed to do for the public, not for themselves. And I just want you to yet again take that into consideration. Again, even though that's not what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Brown, 9105 Jacksonville Cato Road. Like my wife said, we've both been here. every month that this has been on the agenda. We fought and we have fought. Like she said, this does not make a planning sense at all. I understand Public Works needs to move. I understand they're out of space. They're in a residential zone now. It doesn't need to be in residential. We don't need to move a problem from one spot to another. I understand, you say there hasn't been any issues with where Public Works is now. Over the last several months, you should be able to tell there will be issues with where you're putting it. There's been a lot of effort on y'all's behalf to make this happen. It don't make sense. This does not need to happen. I understand the mayor's behind it. She wants it to happen. This commission needs to think on a planning aspect. Just because the city wants it to happen doesn't mean it needs to happen. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? I'll call the public hearing closed. I have a question. You were showing the south property setback on the building line to be 30 foot, but with a 50-foot vegetative buffer. How is that possible?
The building property line setback would be 30 feet, but you still maintain 50-foot vegetative buffer for that portion from the street. This portion, 50 vegetative buffer, and you'd have 30 feet vegetative. Then you'd mimic setbacks as required in the I-1 zoning. Look the setbacks, front, rear, and side would be I-1. Essentially saying, we're going to follow those setbacks. We're going to provide independent of that two buffers, one being 50, the other being 30 to the bound.
I guess my point is that we're imposing conditions on this, and I don't want a 50-foot vegetative buffer inconsistent with where the building line can be placed. It seems to me that we ought to set the building line to match the vegetative buffer.
Welcome to do that. I think if there's an undisturbed vegetative buffer, it could be that that's supposed to be disturbed, and regardless of what the setbacks inside the vegetative buffer. Ooh.
I would just as soon not have an assumption myself. Any comments on that? That's just my take.
Right there.
Do we need a 50-foot vegetative buffer on the north side?
Property in question is publicly owned, and therefore there's control over it. The idea was that stipulate upon the property owner, in this case, local government, at 50, they have control
He's asking about the north side.
of the subject property or the adjacent parcel.
The north edge of the property.
Oh, you're talking about on the north side of the
Right here. Yeah,
right here? I don't know that that has.
If we don't have a vegetative buffer, probably no one will be interested in building a house like that.
During the public staff's discussion, most of the concern has emanated from property supervisor. I don't know that staff is considered imposing a level of buffering on northern quarter. That's something.
Either Brian or Richard, would there be a problem with a vegetative buffer on the north side?
City of Sherwood. I don't suppose I have a problem with it, but the property owner that we bought it from owns the property on the north side and full well do what we were intending to do with the property when he sold it. But he didn't request any sort of buffer.
Area is known for him.
Of course, I suppose We'll probably discuss that more as we get the site plan further developed. I suppose that'll have to come back to be approved prior to anything.
Richard Penn, city engineer. The 50-foot buffer on the south side is natural. It's still there because, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Mr. Brown had told me that he had been there whenever the logging company was there, and they had had a quick conversation, and the logging company recognized that, number one, that's a low area, and number two, that they could leave it. So they left an area it may be 50 feet, it may be more than 50 feet. I haven't actually measured it, but there is a lot of completely undisturbed area that was never even logged. The remainder of all of this property, some close to 600 acres on both sides of Jacksonville Cato, has been logged. So that northern boundary line, it's already been cleared. If we leave a vegetated buffer of 30 feet on the north side, we could make that happen by planting vegetation back to that and likely not lose very much functionality because of some grading that we're going to have to do in there to flatten out the area if there's a hill in it. And a lot of that will have to be flattened out, so there's a lot of it that'll be a slope, probably 3-to-1. And within that 3-to-1 slope, we could get some of that 30 feet. So it's not necessarily losing any buildable property or even parking area for that matter. It would just be a matter of maintaining it as a vegetated buffer. And if you're implying that it's something vertical, more than just 2 inches of grass, then you need to tell us what you want there. If you want it planted in, trees or.
Okay.
What are you agreeing with?
Pine tree.
Oh,
I would prefer something other than pine trees.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
with
not sure
you.
what it would be.
Some kind
I wouldn't be opposed.
of more
to trees.
indigenous to the area.
I guess the issue at this point, that's what we are considering, is what conditions should we recommend be placed on this to be sent to the council as to whether we want to require a vegetated buffer on the north side or leave it to the site design phase where we might encourage it depending on the design. So the question before us, do you have any other conditions or concerns about this that needs to be considered?
Well, the main thing is, right there where it says site, this whole entire area is zoned R1. The only thing that is not R1 is this land that we have, that the city has bought here to build the thing. Now, if we have that R1 up there, and we have a chain link fence along that line, and we got trash trucks and other bulldozers and what have you parked up against the fence, it's unlikely that anyone is going to want to build an R1 facility of R1 housing out there where it says site. So that's why I was thinking, if we really intend to keep that R1 and use it as R1, then we need to provide a buffer on the north side. I have I don't know. The existing fence at our equipment yard right now is a chain link fence, but I mean, I just threw that out there. There'll be some kind of fence there, I'm sure. I'm not sure what it is.
Sure, is that so on the, is it a C3 conditional use?
Well, the opaque fence requirement is required between residential and commercial. But since we're treating this as with an industrial look as far as getting the, the setbacks and the buffers, then the opaque fence would be appropriate along, that border. If you want to say that, but that would be chain link with the slats in it, or some fence that is a secure fence with the required security to it, because there's equipment and chemicals and other things in there that don't need to be accessible to anyone except authorized personnel, which implies that it's 6-foot chain link with 3 strands of barbed wire at the top.
Is there any fencing proposed on the south side?
Yes, there'll be fencing around the entire facility. The
Right.
south side, I think the intent was to put the fencing on the inside, the public works side of the vegetated buffer along the 50-foot border.
Right. Leave the 50-foot vegetated buffer completely within the use and benefit of the Browns, and the 6-foot opaque fence with the barbed wire would be on the public works side of that 50 feet so that they would not see it.
I like it.
So what we're hearing now is something about fencing, even though there's some requirement in the code about it. Do we want to make a condition on what kind of fencing and where it's placed as part of it?
We do that.
That tends to be more of a site plan item, in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay. So what's your pleasure?
At this point, I'm going to say I'm going to make a motion to approve with the conditions, proposed buffers.
Including 30 foot on the south side building line? Including 30 foot building line?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Bruno. Gillum. No. Knight.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. This will go to the city council. That concludes the agenda. We'll go to old business. The first item is Vision 2040.
Okay, folks, so the comprehensive plan map that you see before you has been revised just a little bit more than screen. However, this is essentially what's going to be before you all on 14th, Monday, 6 p.m. Public hearing. You all have chosen as the date and the public time on the Sherwood 2040 plan document. Yep, 14th. So that's the public hearing date. Right now we have the comprehensive plan map. It is available on your city website, linkable directly from city's planning website. We also have a draft comprehensive document. Very much like the one you all have reviewed. However, there are some the main changes that you'll see in it. Today was a rather long day with staff. I plan on looking at this evening. When I get home, I'm going to upload the latest and greatest version of the draft document as well as the plan map, and making great strides and great product. We had actually had some conversations with folks in economic development regarding short, well, not necessarily, but entertainment passed by council. That's at North Country Club. And so one of the main changes we're also that we're proposing plan development, and then really call it out in litigants and zoning classifications, but we're going to call it plan development. Hopefully start a conversation on Monday and on about proposed concepts that not necessarily led themselves additional zoning setbacks to help spur community's eyes some needed redevelopment, perhaps getting something less traditional on what one would normally development area. It will also show actual historic development. I keep saying this that was adopted by the city. That'll appear as its own sort of overlay, similar to what you attached to helping Walden. We're going to boost edits to the map. We're also going to some narrative that in the document itself. Have those two coinciding with one another. That can obviously be discussed by public commission on Monday. And I'll take questions.
I'll just make an observation that the entertainment district is essentially centered on the original Sherwood. If there was a city center, that's where it was. And the idea, I think, is one of the things that came out during the public meetings was we are concerned about our sense of identity. And this is a kind of a special area simply because of the historic perspective. And we have the opportunity here, because there is some vacant land and some undeveloped land, to make it something more special than another gas station or something like that. And I think that's what's leading up to this. Second, I want to point out that we finally have control and we can get the website updated more quickly. And now we have the zoning map will be rapidly updated. Any changes to the code will be updated fairly quickly. Because Dennis Webb on board knows how to do that and knows how to make it suitable for planning purposes. So we're getting good updates real quickly. I encourage you to look at the text and the map of this. It's busy. There's a lot of information there. It is a world different from what we've had. And finally, on the public hearing, this is not a meeting with the Planning Commission. This is going to be sponsored by the Planning Commission, and for all purposes, I'll be chairing the public hearing, but the hearing is essentially for the purpose of letting the author of the plan explain it to all of us, to the City Council, which we hope will attend, and any member of the public that are interested in it. Because he's now the planning director for the City of Conway, we have trouble sometimes being able to get him because of his conflicting schedule. This is when we could get him. He needed to be the one to tell us about it since he authored it. And this is not taking anything away from Kevin, who is contributing to the thing. It's just that James authored it. And as a part of the last chance we'll get him, I would obviously love to see this thing adopted in the near future, but we need to understand it, be comfortable with it, before we send it on to the City Council for their adoption. Again, I encourage you to look at it, and I encourage you to attend and hear what people have to say. Any questions?
Here?
Yes, here. Moving on to the new site plan for Lot 4 as old business.
Okay, this staff report should look familiar to any of you. Last time the site plan reviewed, it was tabled because essentially still needed to have the City Council approve rezoning for the proposed Lot 5 as they were showing on the plat, that lot being 1.8. Here we are, the zoning has been adopted, entirety of the proposed lot. We will show you all in a second. Have recall. This is how the site looks before replatting. This is a team parcel. This is parcel, all part of this farm. The parcel in question for tonight for the site plan at this corner of Heritage. This is your subject property, and with the proposed plat, they essentially move the line that you see here, move it western fashion, increase that lot to 1.5 acres. Doing so, of course, not only then split zones that parcel, but then requires a seat for a hotel eventually. Oh. The report speaks to the August 8th Planning Commission meeting, the fact that the preliminary plat was approved by the commission, but it also speaks during the site plan review portion that on September 10th, all tabled it. And essentially, the zoning has been approved for a lot 5. The outstanding items that you have in your report have been addressed. They still sit in this report because of this morning. I actually did this digital version, and it was reviewed. And the outstanding items that you see before you have are addressed. I'm going to notes that I have in this initial. This is the original site plan proposed comment on fire ingress, not addressed in the initial plan. Plan, we also had some comments about leaving this area open at that southwest corner to allow for some potential action. Large undeveloped off in that direction. A few other notes. I have an individual guess of that. Again, recollection, curb cut, wanted fire apparatus, wanted to get access to the property. The note about the parking, that's essentially been revised. If you'll recall, of 88 parking. It's all inclusive, not institutions. This have for apparatus access. Also, there is left open is comes off the west. There will be ability just to create access. As it
Okay, this requires a public hearing. Was this advertised? Okay, this was tabled, so we are going to now open the public hearing. Does anybody wish to comment? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Commission, what's your objection?
The motion to approve.
Second.
Do we need to make a motion to take it off the table? Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve.
Bruno. Aye. Gillum.
Aye.
Knight.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Takes care of the agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
You got a final plat. You got a final plat on new business for
Final plat.
Creekside 8.
Creekside 8. I
Oh, yeah.
We have everything we need on Creekside Phase 8. We've received all the documentation. I spoke with wastewater today, and we've got all the testing and TV of the sewer lines. And Candy, did you have any outstanding items on the checklist for the final plat? We agreed to the maintenance bond. Yes, we agreed to the amount of the maintenance bond.
Oh, you did?
Yes. Yep.
So you were-
Yep. We've agreed to that. So
and other
we've
than the
covered.
final inspection, which I need that in writing.
Yeah. The final inspection, Tracy and Lon have been there. So we've got it all covered at this point. We know that we've got the work done. If you would be so inclined to approve the final plat, we can get that signed.
Gentlemen,
Let's approve the final plat. That's a motion.
we have a motion and a second. Call roll.
Bruno.
Aye.
Gillum.
Aye.
Knight. Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Now can we have a motion? In a second.
Second.
Call roll.
Bruno.
Aye.
Gillum.
Aye.
Knight.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Call the Sherwood Board of Zoning Adjustment to order. Call roll.
Bruno.
Here.
Gillum.
Aye. Here.
Knight.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Middleton.
Here. You've received a copy of the minutes of the last meeting. If you have any corrections or additions.
There was something I had to correct or had to, so motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call roll.
Bruno. Gillum.
Aye.
Knight.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye. Any new business? Any old business? Any motion?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Bruno. Gillum.
Aye.
Knight.
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.